is, I mean, the results and the exposure is so much greater.
Yeah.
You think about, you maybe you fly in and you do a conference, and even if you're talking in front of 500 people, you just spent like 3 days, you flew in, you had to spend all your time, you did a speech, maybe you got a couple clients out of that. That's amazing. But you only got in front of like those handful of people that happen to be sitting there. Think about who you could get in front of and the reach you could have and the amount of people who would be thinking about you, where it's positioning you in their mind and in their thoughts for next time they reach out and they're thinking like, oh, I need a financial advisor. Oh, I saw one on Good Day New York the other day. They seemed like they know what they were doing. The anchors thought they were great. Well, that's like people go and look for, you were saying reviews, right? Like I'm always looking at Google reviews. I'm looking at, different reviews for restaurants. I'm looking at it. We care what other people think of things. And if other people are giving it the seal of approval, I mean, that's gold.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. Good to know. Putting that on the top of the to-do list, especially as a business owner. A lot of people who watch this are entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, and they totally, they understand the importance of getting media attention, but I don't think they get it to this level, right? So obviously everyone's goal is to be like the next Mel Robbins or, someone who has a big, massive following. And LinkedIn's great, but you're not getting that big on LinkedIn. I love me some LinkedIn. It gets me clients. Absolutely. But it's not going to get you international, global exposure. I mean, you could there's 1 billion people on LinkedIn, but the odds of the 1 billion people seeing you are so much smaller. But like you said, there's tiers, right? So
there are.
Can you tell me what the tiers? I assume it's like magazines and television, radio, whatever.
Not just. So the tiers go by how many viewers or readers they have or eyes on them they have, right? So for example, tier 1 is considered 1 million unique views or more, but it levels up within there. So for example, we just placed a client in Microsoft News. So MSN is, they are officially a tier 1, but they are like almost the very top of it because they get something like over 123 million unique views a month worldwide, globally, right? So there's tier 1 and then there's like the top of tier 1. And there could be, magazines, People Magazines is going to be in a tier 1. And then tier 2 is more like the local TV stations. And even within local TV stations or local sort of press, there are levels as well. So for instance, if you're talking about New York, it's like the #1 media area in the country, really, right? So if you are on a show or you get placed on a very popular show in New York, let's say a Good Day New York, that is getting you so many more viewers than, let's say, a Good Day Kentucky.
Right.
Yeah. Right? So there's different levels within each tier. But it's also important, and I sort of touched on this a little bit earlier when we were talking about finding the best fit for your client, right? And the best sort of audience. That matters a lot. And you want to make sure that you are placing them in front of the audience that would be interested in what they're saying, that would be their customers, that would be, focused on them or want to take something away from what they're saying. And so that's very important when you are pitching different media opportunities and you're pitching your clients. You want to make sure that it is to their target audience.
Oh, such good information. This is just blowing my mind in the difference. You got tiers. I got tiers of my thoughts, tiers of, I'm switching up a lot of my strategy now.
I'm so glad. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes so much sense because being on TV in general sounds like the goal, right? I want to be featured in articles, magazines, radio, television, but it may not actually reach your ideal customer or the people who you want to call in. So there's a lot of behind the scenes, which having a PR person obviously already has this information. So my thought is you get what you pay for, right? Like when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Everything, right?
Yeah.
That's like life. I think that's a good point to remember in life.
Like, I mean, I can Google for free, but it could be a waste of my time and energy and pitches and effort if what I end up finding is not suited for me. Like to me, it's like skipping levels, right? So being able to invest in a media company is so valuable for our business, especially if you're not here to waste time, right? It just sounds like it's going to help you to really like skip the front of the line, fast pass to where you're supposed to be.
It 100% is. It is like the fast pass. Like you're going to Disney, you spent all that time, and you took all those 2 weeks off of work, and your kids are going to miss school and everything. You don't want to wait in the back of the line for it, right? Or let's say you're an author and you have spent years writing this book, and it's your heart and soul, right, that you put into this, and then you're releasing it. You're releasing it sort of out into the ether, like out into the air, and like maybe your mom will buy it and your best friend probably. But unless you are Mel Robbins, and you can see actually, if you follow her, because I do follow her, I'm a fan, but she's doing the circuit now for her book, promoting her book. So even Mel Robbins' publicist sets her up to go promote her book in the media. It's how you level up your exposure. Yeah. It's how you increase that like 1,000%.
Ugh. And who doesn't want that? I mean, I know I do. Sign me up. All right. So where should somebody start? Of course, they're going to connect with you, find you on LinkedIn. What's your website? Where are they going to look?
My website is jenolivamedia.com.
Perfect. So
And
obviously connecting with you is first step, but if they're still of the DIY stage of business, say they're newbies, is there something they can do today to prepare themselves for when they do get to you, or people who are ready to work with you? What does it look like to prepare ourselves? Like, should there be reels, one sheets? Like what are the preparations to be successful?
Yeah, good point. I think that just like in life or anything, before you take that jump, you want to make sure you're prepared, right? Mm-hmm. You want to make sure, number one, you want to make sure that your materials, and we will help with you with your materials, but you want to make sure your things that back up what you do as an expertise, back up your company, are ready. So for instance, your website, is your website up, ready to go, look good? Your LinkedIn profile, is it as sharp as it should be? Does it communicate what it should be? Because once we start putting you out there, it's too late. You can't say, oh, don't look for a website yet. I'm sending you somebody, but don't look into them yet. Yeah. So you need to be, or the client, or anybody, even if before they're ready to be client, needs to get all their ducks in a row in terms of making sure that they are forward, that what is forward facing for them is ready for the world to see. Because journalists will start to look into you once we start to push you out. You know, not the nitty gritty, but they're going to look to see what other media you've done. They're going to look to see if you have a website, if it looks legit, if you have, you know, your experience on LinkedIn. So that is one of the top first things I would say. The other top first thing I would say is that you need to be very clear. And I actually just did a whole class on this, on branding, which is really important that people I really think need to think about. And I want them to think about is that you need to be very clear on you and your expertise and what you bring to the table and what you're promoting, right? I have clients who have come to me and said, oh, I could talk about this. I could talk about that. I have experience doing this, that. And I explain to them that you cannot be an expert in everything.
Right.
We need to hone down, focus on what makes you unique, what makes you interesting, and what your expertise actually is in, and what you can share with people, right? That's the valuable stuff. Yeah. That's what everybody wants. So if you're thinking about this and you're thinking that you want PR, but you're not sure yet really what you want it in, or what you bring, to the table, or you think, oh, I can talk about everything. I could talk about interior design. I could talk about floral design. I could talk about, like, I want them to focus, to really sit down and write out, like, just start with a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Like, what do I bring to the table? What are my skills? What makes me different than other people? What do people get from what I provide? And how is that different? And all of that is going to help prepare you and set you up for getting PR and getting media. And then you're ready.
That's awesome. It sounds very similar to when I either work with like job seekers or executives who want to get on a board. I always say you have to have, entrepreneurs is a given. You have to have your thing. What's your thing? What's your specialty? And if you've got too many of them, because sometimes I work with executives who have been in their industries for years, and they're like, well, I've done this, 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 and this. And I'm like, how does it blend together to be one this, right? You can't have all the thises because then you start to confuse your audience. So it makes a lot of sense to not only have, because especially too, if you're going to get a media, you need to be able to speak to it. So you need to have your main talking points, but there's got to be the thing that you're different than other people. What is this? Your unique value proposition? It's
100%. It's your unique. It's your unique you. It's what makes you unique and what you bring to the table, and why they should listen to you, why they would want to interview you, why they would want to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need to be, like you were just saying, clear. You need to be clear and concise, right? You need to be able to say what it is you do. You need to be able to communicate that. And so that people understand it, so that it is relatable.
So good. Yes, the relatable part is huge, right? Especially